You have a first-class seat to watch the Lori Boyle Show. It looks like everything is all set. So here she is, Lori Boyle.
Well, welcome to the Lori Boyle Show. It's so nice to see you again, and it's so nice to have my guest here, Laura. And we are going to talk about business tonight. It's all business tonight. And Laura Willis is my guest. She teaches a class here at Cape Cod Community College on business and strategizing and your brand. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, how to get your message out there, how to brand yourself, how to get your message out, and how to make money doing it. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So welcome, Laura. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You're
I'm
welcome.
excited to be here.
Oh, good. It's a really rainy night here tonight. It's been pouring all day. And
Which
Laura,
we need the rain.
Yeah, we do need the rain. But Laura drove all the way down from Pembroke.
Yep.
And that's a pretty long drive. So we appreciate her effort to be here. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So the name of your company is called Encore Revolution.
Right.
And by the way, it's encorerevolution.com is where
Correct.
you can find Laura. So why that name? Why did you think that would really grab people?
So my background is as a graphic designer by trade and was in the corporate environment and advertising agencies for many years, and had my own business doing freelance graphic design after I left corporate, and had started to do some research around the baby boomers. And I'm a baby boomer, and there's a lot of us out there, and people that were at that stage, because I went through it too, where you kind of have that aha moment, like, what do I want to be when I grow up, you know?
Exactly.
Sort of like, or you get to that point in your life when you realize, you know, I'm not really feeling that fulfilled at what I'm doing. And so through some research around the baby boomer market, we kept coming across the term encore careers, and that baby boomers were the largest segment. Millennials are catching up now, but baby boomers have been the largest segment starting businesses. So I realized that they're at that life stage, they're starting businesses, they bring all kinds of great knowledge to the table, but they don't necessarily know how to market or brand their businesses. So I hit that point where I was a little disenchanted by the graphic design world. People can get logos online for $50,
Right.
that kind of thing. And it was actually my own aha moment came when I was writing my dad's eulogy. And you know, you think that's a sad thing, and it was, you know, but it was a positive thing because it struck me like, how do I want someone to write about me when I'm no longer on the planet? And if I'm not living it that way now, how do I live it now? So through a lot of inner soul searching and what else can I do? I've only been doing graphic design for all these years. I discovered my own encore. And what came through for me was teach. And I'm like, teach what? I don't know, what am I supposed to teach? So that's put me on a path of realizing that there are a lot of people out there who needed my help, and helping them to understand brand, and to help them to get their message out there, as you said. And so I felt like there is this large wave of people, not just baby boomers. 70% of the U.S. workforce statistically is unhappy or unmotivated in their work. And so it's like, we want to make the world a better place. You want more happy people.
Right.
They should be doing something that they feel fulfilled at. So it is about people who have maybe started to follow a dream, and it's their encore. So
yeah, their second act.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
in some cases, their third or fourth act. And
that's right.
I've really been working with anyone from mid to late 30s on up to their 60s and 70s. So.
Well, that's the corporate workplace has changed so much that no longer do you really go to work for someone and expect to stay there for 35 years or so,
Right.
and then retire with a pension, all that kind of stuff. That's what my dad did and my mom did, but those jobs are few and far between, and
Right.
nobody seems to really be doing that anymore.
Right.
So really, you are going to have your own business at some point in time, and it can be really fun and really rewarding, but it's also going to be a lot of work
Really
and very challenging.
And I
yeah.
think, as I said, people that come out of a corporate situation, another job, bring all kinds of skills, but they don't. Nobody has all of them, right? Nobody knows everything about starting a business, really, unless you're, I don't know, like some brilliant Google founder or something.
Right.
But from that perspective, it's like, why not surround yourself with people that can help you, and to pull out what your unique brilliance is. That's actually part of the process that I use. And so I've speaking of that process, it's like coming up with a process that combines brand strategy with inner work. So the first part, which is the most important, really dives deep into what somebody's passionate about. So it's pulling out their passion and their purpose.
Okay, so they come to you with just a vague idea of what they want to do,
It
and you
varies.
sort of help them put it together?
Right, so it
Okay.
varies. Some people already have a business started, some are starting and aren't quite sure what that next step is, but they have maybe some ideas or thoughts that they know they want to start a business. So that's typically who I work with. But for years, I always talk to people about making an emotional connection through their marketing and their message. And I finally got some science around it. I was so excited. I don't know, I'm sure you watch TED Talks.
Yes.
So
yes.
I saw a TED Talk, Simon Sinek, you can look him up, and some of the things that I use in my work are from Simon. And he talks about going to your why, and that when you go to your why and you're communicating from your why, meaning why do you do what you do, why do you love what you do, so that's the first step, you have to love what you do, and what that does in connecting with other people, because you're connecting with someone on a deeper brain level. I was actually, this is his little, I don't know, it might be too bright on the camera, but I think you can see it. So the why is in the middle, and he talks about the fact that everybody knows what they do. And then some people know how they do it. That's when you start getting into a unique selling proposition, marketing speak, people hear about that. But very few come from why they do it. And if you want more information, look him up on TED Talks, and you'll get his whole TED Talk. But he talks about Apple and how Apple uses that in their marketing and why Apple is so successful. Well, that relates to the limbic brain. And just to give you an idea on the limbic brain is in the middle part of your brain. And it's what controls trust. It's where your decision making comes from. It's where your emotions and your feelings come from, but it's not where language comes from. The outer part of the brain, this is a very simplification, obviously, of how the brain works, but the outer part of the brain is the neocortex. And that's the rational part of the brain. That's what's taking in all the information around you and processing that. The limbic part is where, when people say, I have a gut feeling about that, but I can't put it into words, that's because it's coming from that inner part of the brain. So when you use your why, or if you're coming from your emotional part, your passion, you're sharing your passion rather than selling anybody on anything, that's what connects with people. That's why they just get this good feeling about you versus, I don't know about that person. It really is about your passion and aligning with that, and then creating a message around that, and that's what's going to connect with people.
Right. It's different when you're sharing a great idea and you do it with a lot of enthusiasm versus you're trying to sell somebody and your goal is to get some money from them.
Right.
And it's a whole different feeling when you talk to somebody
Right.
who's coming from either that position or the other.
Right.
So
right.
you're trying to guide them into the one where they're using their enthusiasm and excitement for whatever it is they're doing.
Exactly.
And sell from
and energy
that
is a
way.
big part of it. So I'm glad you brought that up, because when you think about, we've all had the experience where somebody walks into a room and before they open their mouth, and if they're in a bad mood, you already feel it.
Yes.
And the opposite is true as well. So if somebody's in a really good mood and they're vivacious and bubbly, they haven't even opened their mouth either, and you can sense that they're in a really good mood. So science, again, it's called heart math. You can look that up too, Google that. They can measure your energy 10 feet out from your body now. So we've all sensed it and felt it, but now science is proving that there are energy vibrations like that far out from your body. So I am working with one of my clients who had a meeting with a potential client. I said, you know, if you walk in there thinking, I've got to get a client, I need more business, that kind of thing, and you know, I said, how does that make you feel? And she said, really stressed and anxious. And I said, so what if you went in there just shifting your perspective a little bit, like you believe in what you do, right? Yes, absolutely. What if you walk in there thinking, how can I help this person? Versus, I need this client. Mm-hmm. And I've been practicing that more and more in my own business. And when I just have that conversation with people and learn more about what their needs are, and then start to bring in my passion around the things that I do and how it can help them, they're asking me how can they work with me versus me trying to sell them.
I think you hit on a really big difference. You know, I go to a lot of networking events and things like that. And when somebody is looking at me like, how can I help you? And they're talking to me about how they might be able to help me, that's coming from a completely different avenue. You know, because if I do that and I go in and maybe meet you and think about how can I help you, you know, I'm not thinking about how am I going to get paid,
right.
How much money are you going to give me. I'm not coming from that, and maybe I just have an idea that I can help you with,
right.
And maybe I won't sell anything to you at all.
Right.
But that has to be okay, and that's sort of a leap of faith for a lot of salespeople and a lot of people in their own business, because it is so all-consuming to be in your own business, and
right.
you're thinking about it all the time. And
right,
you're like,
and we all
I
go
have bills
there.
to pay.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
So it's
I mean,
hard.
there is reality, and you have to balance that out. But part of the process that I use in the very beginning, I have people tune into their bodies, and I have them think about when you are enthusiastic about something, you're doing something you really love. Where do you feel it in your body? Like, it might not have anything to do with their work or anything, just to tune in. Just so they're more aware that when they go and have those conversations, even in a networking event, like how many people, you know, they just want all the business cards they can get, and it doesn't mean anything. You want to make that connection. You want to make that emotional connection to someone. And it could even be, I've used the example before, like when you talk about pets, how many people pull out their iPhones and their smartphones and start sharing pictures of their pets? They're emotionally connected. You now have made a connection with that person on a deeper level. Like, do you always want to talk about your pets? No. But think about it in terms of that you're making a different kind of connection with that person. And people do business with people, not businesses. So they have to have that, especially a small business. You know, you have to be making that emotional connection. So not even just one-to-one and in person, but your message has to show that too.
Right, right. So it's really, as you said, making that personal connection with the other person. They have to like you, and you know, it's so counterintuitive that you really have to step back. You have to go in there with a smile on your face and be upbeat and talk to everybody. And sometimes that's hard.
It is hard.
That's hard to do.
It is hard. And part of what I teach my clients too is how to, I call it talk your walk. Usually it's walk your talk. But I flip it around because going to a networking event can be really challenging. So part of the process is not just coming up with the ads or your website or all of that. It's like, how do you talk your brand? And that it is more around bringing through your passion and your story. And sometimes people are afraid to share their personal story around why they started their business. It could come from a very deep emotional place. I was watching The Prophet the other day.
Oh yeah, I like that show.
I hadn't really seen it before, and he happened to be working with this company called, I think, Flex Watches or something like that.
Okay.
But they started their business with this cause-related business. So they were giving so much of their profits to 10 different charities. And you know, they started out that way, and then they moved away from it and their business failed. And they were afraid to tell their story because it came from an emotional story around their mother who had cancer. So it takes courage to put that vulnerability out there for people, but the more you let a little of that out, and you have to have that balance between, you don't want to bear all in the very first conversation, but if you have that balance between that personal story, that vulnerable side of you, and the credibility that you bring to what you're doing, then you bring that balance, and that's what I help people to do when I'm walking them through the process.
I think that takes practice.
It does.
When you have to speak, like we have a show called Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod, and the other Wicked Housewife is Kat Canavas, and she had cancer 3 times, and she can talk about it like, we're talking about the weather, but it took a long time to get to that point. And like you said, it was a little by little process, but it's one of the things you have to do is you have to sort of think about your story. What are you comfortable sharing? Maybe you could put that into a paragraph, and that's all you share for that one event. So take baby steps.
And I call them conversation starters. I know people hear the term elevator pitch, and that's a pretty common term, and kind of they get a little overused sometimes. Like,
I don't know what they're doing back there.
But I call it conversation starter because you're really just trying to pique someone's curiosity to open the conversation, right? At a networking event, you can't do it all or say it all. So it is about making that quick emotional connection, and then let's have coffee or let's have lunch and talk about it further. But when you think about it, wouldn't it be easier to share a story with someone versus trying to sell somebody? They feel that too, It's like, oh, we're just having a conversation here. Nobody's pressuring me. I know I'm one of those people that if a salesperson puts pressure on me, I back away. I don't want that pressure. So you're not selling. Nobody likes to sell either, unless you're a really good salesperson, but most people don't like selling. So instead of focused on selling, it is really focused on sharing your passion, and passion is contagious. So when your passion comes through, people feel it.
I always look at those networking events as a party. I'm just going to go to a party and meet people.
And sometimes it is just starting the conversation with someone. And I know, following up with people is what's really important. And when you feel like some sort of a connection could be there, then you follow up,
So how does somebody begin to identify what it is that they want to get across? How do you help them do that?
So I use a process, and I call it the core process, because I changed the why to core, because I feel like it's coming from your core. And le core, actually, someone pointed out to me, means heart in French. I don't speak French, so if I butchered that, I apologize. But when you come from your heart, that passion, that purpose, that's what you want to identify. So in the process, I call it the core process, as I said. The first part is connecting to your story. Now that breaks down into several components. So it's connecting to your core values, which a lot of people don't look at. They just don't really think about it. Connecting to your body, as I said, connecting to your belief system, and also there's like 8 components to that whole thing. And why we do that is that's where you want to really connect to what you stand for, who you are in your business, what you believe around your business and how you help people. And that's really what's going to come through in the message. So you kind of gather all those pieces. Then the second part is the O, and I call that optimize your target audience. You really want to look at who specifically is your target audience and what's going on with them emotionally. So not just the demographics, which if anybody's familiar would be like age, male or female, could be location, could be income. Those are all demographics. I help people to dive into the psychographics. What's going on in their head in relation to what you have to offer? Because that's where you're going to be able to align with what you're passionate about with what they need and want. And that's where it's going to help you to make the connection. So the more you can identify that, and we create profiles not in a bad way, but emotional profiles, you know, what's going on. Like my business, I thought I was going to focus only on baby boomers when I started out, but it became more of an emotional profile. It's more about people who are just at a life stage. They could be young mothers who want to have a business and do something meaningful in their work to show and set an example for their children, all the way to retirees who don't want to just sit back and do nothing. They want to stay engaged and active and start a business, you know.
So you get into exactly why are you starting this business,
right,
and connecting it
to what
that.
people
It's not
need.
just to make money. It's got to be bigger than that, right?
Right. I believe one of my beliefs is that when you align with your passion and your purpose, the money follows. And I know a lot of speakers and teachers out there say the same thing.
Right.
And I find when I'm more in alignment, that's true for me too. That people show up. People in conversations want to work with me, as I said. You know, if I go from that perspective of, you know, I would love to work with this person, I feel a connection with them, you know, how can I attract them? And it really is about sharing my story and my beliefs around that. And I believe people really should love what they do. I mean, I don't know who said it, but somebody famous said it years ago that, you know, I don't work for a living, I get up and, you know, I love my work so much it's not a job. I mean, something along those lines.
And it's nice to have that in your life, even if you do have to get up and go to work for a living, and you have to do whatever it is because of your family or people are depending on you to bring that paycheck home.
Right.
Then it's nice to have just a little piece that's just for you, if whether or not it's your business, if it's just your passion, because you also get people in touch with what their passion is.
Right.
And when you have that as part of your life, I think it can make your whole life a lot easier, a lot happier.
Right, right. And more recently, too, I've also been working with people who don't necessarily have a business. They may be working in corporate or in a job, and just helping them to walk through a very similar process, then they can align what they're doing in their job with what they love to do. Like just even identifying, one of the other pieces that I didn't mention in the first part is unique brilliance exercise. So it's looking at what are the things that you're really good at along with the things that you really love to do, and they energize you, and you know, you could do them all day and it doesn't make you tired. That's like in the top quadrant, you know, all the way down to the things you really don't like to do. You put them off at all costs and procrastinate. And so those are the things you shouldn't be doing all the time. Well, if you're doing all the stuff you don't like to do in your job, you need to look at what are those little snippets of what you're doing now that you do enjoy, and how can you bring in more of that? Because if you're just going to work and you're miserable every day, first of all, you're not going to get anywhere, and you're not going to advance in your job. But I had a client that I worked with this past summer who, it just helped her to decide, you know, did she want to stay in the job she's in, or did she want to go for another job? And it also helped her to identify what aspects of that new potential job that she wanted. So a job came along that had, you know, ticked a couple of the boxes, but it didn't tick enough of them for her to move to the new job. And so I was really excited that really helped her too. And clients end up walking away, whether you have a business or whether it's an individual, with what I call a manifesto. So instead of like a mission statement, they get to have their manifesto, and I call it, maybe it's their soapbox, that what they would get on top of their soapbox and talk about in relation to what they want to do, whether it's in their business or just in their career. And so that gives them something to kind of bounce things off of and make decisions by.
It's true. I mean, sometimes it just helps to connect with someone like you, just to think about the job that you have and why did you take it in the first place? Why do you have it? There's got to be something you like about it.
Right.
Because you made that commitment
Right.
to the company to show up every day and do whatever it is you do.
Right.
So there's got to be a big piece of you that really likes doing what you're doing or being in the field you're in.
Right.
So, yeah, so
And
that's
then-
important.
And then the R piece is revolutionize. So I call it revolutionize your message and your imagery. So many times clients or people that are starting businesses or have businesses, they'll look at their competition and try and like copy them. Like, oh, they're successful, so let's do that. Well, yeah, you can look at what they're doing, but you want to be different from them, right? So, so that's where you're, again, sort of combining and crossing the bridge between what you love to do and what people need, and then how do you put some interesting imagery around that? Like, use something that's different, that's going to stand out from the competition. But you have to kind of look at the competition, be aware of what they're doing, and what's the feeling you're trying to create? What's that perception that you're trying to create in your message and your imagery? So, you know, I challenge people sometimes to look at something totally out of the box. I recently worked on a CPA business, and we used like plant imagery in her work instead of the sort of staid things that people always use for that type of industry, and it just really makes her stand out, you know. She happened to like doing gardening too, so that showed a little bit about herself and her own personal side too.
Right,
So,
money is green and growth, and that's
Yeah.
often used as a way to illustrate that.
right,
So,
right.
yeah,
And then
so
the
that
E
works.
part is energize. So we talked about that in the beginning. When you walk into a room, and what energy are you bringing in? You know, check in with yourself. Before I came here, it was like tuning into myself before I walked in the room, and you know, what energy am I bringing to the table here? You know, let go of whatever worries I might have been thinking about on the drive down, and taking that deep breath before I come in. What is the energy you're putting out there? If I tend to, I'm sitting up and I'm talking faster when I'm excited about something.
Yeah.
That's why I'm probably speaking fast here, because you know, it's the work that I love and I'm passionate about. I think that if you start to talk about something and you say, all right, well, I have this paper I have to do, and you know, and you can hear the tonal change in my voice. You know, look at the energy that you're bringing. And then I have another part to the E, and that's engage. How are you going to engage your target audience? So it's looking at where are they? Are they online? Are they, you know, on Facebook? Are they, all of those tactical things of where you can reach them? Is it networking? Is it, you know, what is the best way for you to put your message out there? So that's the last part of the process.
And that's important too, because that's changing all the time.
All the time.
You know, all the, you know, of course, everyone now knows that you need to use social media for your business. So, but which one? Because now
depends
there's
on-
new apps all
Right,
the time.
right.
There's something new, like
Right.
Snapchat is brand new, and my little niece and nephew are Snapchatting everybody.
Right,
you know?
right, right.
And
Right, it is changing
yeah.
all the time, and so again, it goes by who is your target audience and where are they.
Right.
You know, Facebook used to be all young people, and now a lot of the young people have left because the older baby boomers have taken over or whatever. But there's a lot more people on Facebook, so they've moved over to Instagram or Snapchat. You know, but are the businesses there? You know, businesses are still. I still think Facebook is still a pretty prominent social media for
Yeah.
most businesses.
it's been around long enough that people know how to use it, and
Right.
it's not like constantly changing like Google.
Yeah.
And Google Plus is changing all the
All
time.
the time.
And Facebook used to be like that in the beginning.
They still do a
it
little
was
bit, but
changing
yeah.
and changing. Yeah, they don't change so much anymore. It's kind of slowed down, but you know, to know how to use it for business. So I think more and more people are getting on board, because a lot of people I know, me included, I don't want to keep using a software that keeps changing
Right.
every 5 minutes, and I got to
Right.
keep on top of it. I mean, there's enough things to learn about without, you know, letting that happen. But
Yeah, and I think the challenge with social media too is to keep it current. So if you have a
Right.
Facebook page, you need to post all the time, or you can use tools that set the posts for you, like you can set them up ahead of time and,
Right.
and put them out there so that it looks fresh all the time. It's challenging for all small business owners. Like, how do I manage my social media? And then
Right.
sometimes they don't want to do any because they don't feel like they can manage it. I have challenges around it too. So
yeah, everybody does. You have to kind of commit to what you can take care of, what you can post on and utilize, and stay current with.
Right,
So,
right.
So how do people get in touch with you? I know you're teaching at the Four Cs.
Yes,
And
I
so
have
you're-
a course coming up in November at through the Cape Cod Community College. It's called Boost Your Brand, and it's strategies to attract more clients and accelerate your business. And that starts in like mid-November, so they can look that up through the Cape Cod Community College website, and it's under their business section, which is the Center for Corporate, I always get tongue-tied when I say it, Center for Corporate and Professional Education. And it's, if you look up Boost Your Brand, you'll find that. Or I have other speaking things, speaking engagements, and I'm going to be starting up some online webinar classes that I do pretty soon. So you can check that out on my website, and that's encorerevolution.com. Or I also post on a Facebook page too,
Yeah,
so we were
right.
just talking about that. And if you look up Encore Revolution, you'll find my page there too.
Okay, great. So encorerevolution.com, and it's Laura Willis. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It
Oh,
was
you're
really
very
fun.
welcome. It was
I hope
fun.
we
It was
gave some
informative.
good information. Yeah.
That's right. Good. Well, thank you again, and thank you for being with us. Until next time.